Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we have a brand new 2024 Ford F-150 Raptor, and we've installed two 40-inch Pro Series light bars. They offer awesome amber DRL feature, daytime running light, as well as powerful white light. Alright, let's go ahead and pop the hood and see what we got going on. So the first thing we're going to do is remove this top liner. All it's held by is just regular push pins. So you just pry them with a screwdriver, grab your pin removal tool, and let's get them all out. Some are just push pins. Some of these that have a little top hat on top, you have to pry it first, get the pin, raise the pin, and then when the pin is raised, then you can just pry it out. So it's kind of like a locking mechanism. So there's a couple of these that I've seen as well. Now that we removed all the push pins, let's go ahead and lift up on this plastic trim piece and get it out the way. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and remove these 5 large push pins and 4 10mm bolts from the top. These are a little trickier, they're really in there. These are a little larger, they have a lot of grooves, so they're a little bit more difficult when removing. But it's the same practice, just get underneath the head of it and just kind of pry it up little by little until it all comes out. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab a 10mm socket and remove these 4 10mm screws. Since we're working on top of the grill, let's go ahead and disconnect all the wiring. So you actually have more than wiring. You have 2 plugs here, you have a plug here, and you have windshield washer fluid here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove, this is the harness for the active shutter system. Just squeeze the top and pull it up. That unplugs. And then following the wiring, there's also a plug here. So same thing. We're going to squeeze it and unplug it. Let's go ahead and separate by removing this white push pin inside the grill. We can also free up this harness by lifting it up. There we go. So this is completely out of the way. Next one on the list is the camera. So we're going to press on this tab and pull them apart. There it goes. And the last thing is the windshield washer. Squeeze this plastic ring and then just pulls out. So I'm going to squeeze it with one hand and just pull it out. There's another clip here that we're going to remove. And now everything is disconnected from the grill. Alright, we got everything on top. The next step is going to be removing this bottom trim piece. I'm going to remove these 2 7mm bolts from the fender flare. That's going to allow us to push the fender flare out. So after removing those 2 screws, I'm going to go ahead and pop the fender well out, fender flare. There we go, and everything just unclips. So now that we separated the fender flare, we're going to go ahead and give it a little tuck on the side to separate the bottom trim piece from the fender. There we go. So we should do the same thing on the passenger side, so that way both of the edges are unclipped, and then unclip it towards the center. So follow me on the passenger side. We're going to take off the fender flare and unclip the edge. So I'll clip this. Now we're going to pry this forward. Okay, and we're just going to work our way towards the center. Try to work this edge. There we go. And that's how you remove the bottom trim. So the last 2 bolts that are holding this grill together are the ones on the bottom. There's 2 bolts here. We're gonna take out the inner one. It's a 10mm bolt. There's one. Same thing on the other side, it's the inner 10mm bolt. So now that you got all the bolts on top and the bottom off, now we can remove the grill. Now that I have disassembled the grill from the vehicle, let's go ahead and take off the bottom trim piece. It has push pins that hold 2 parts of the grill together. So I'm just gonna go on the bottom of it and just kind of pry them open. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is remove these nuts on top. There's 4, and that's going to separate the 2 portions of the grill. And we're going to take out the 8mm screw in the middle of the grill. So the last thing we have to do is get these clips on the bottom off. You push them and prop it up. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Something's locked up. There we go. There we go. The camera actually puts tension on both the sides, so there's a clip here on the bottom of the adapter. We're gonna go ahead and take it out. It's a little stubborn, so I'm gonna push it from the back end and kind of wiggle it out. There it is. And then when we take this out, we're gonna also, there's the wires clipped in, we're gonna move it sideways so that way it loosens up. Also the windshield washer tube, we're gonna have to get it out of its groove just by unclipping it. So we also have these, we gotta take off this harness. So this is what powers the front marker lights. That's 1, and these just unclip. Before you're removing the 2 parts of the grill apart, there's also the camera wire. We gotta unclip this. And there's 2 clips here. There it is. And now we can freely disassemble the 2 parts. So now that we have the 2 parts of the grill separated, let's go ahead and install a light bar. If you purchased one 40-inch Pro Series light bar, you get to choose whether you want to install it above the Ford sign or below. If you purchased 2 40-inch light bars, you will install one above and one below. So first let me show you how to put a light bar above the Ford sign, and then after that I'll show you how to do that below. So when you grab the light bar, what we want to do, we want to attach these end pieces on the ends of them. So I'm going to go ahead and use supplied hardware. So notice when we're installing the side brackets onto the light bar, there's a bolt here and it's faced on the inside of the bracket. So make sure not to install the side pieces like that. The bolt goes on the, right underneath the light bar on the inside. So let's do the same thing on the opposite end. So we're going to use supplied hardware. We have the mounting bolt underneath the light bar. That's 2. Perfect. Now that you have the side brackets on, we have to install these in the correct slots. We're going to put these over the existing bolt holes. So we are reusing these studs that we removed the nuts from, and this is how the brackets look like attached to it. Let's go ahead and insert the light bars inside the grill on top of the Ford sign where we're deciding to install it. You will notice that when installing it, the light bar will not fit straight down, so you have to get it at an angle, fit it behind these plastic grooves. Now we're ready to install the mounts. Once again, don't forget there's an arrow pointing up, so we're going to go ahead and install it onto this threaded bolt. Now we're going to thread this bolt through the opening and secure it with a supplied nut. I'm just going to finger thread it. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite end and then tighten these nuts together. Okay, so I'm going to slide the M&R bracket and then put a nut on the back of that bolt. Now that both of the sides are threaded onto the mount, we can go ahead and tighten that bolt. So now I'm going to show you guys how to install below the Ford side. So if you purchased one, you can use the same brackets to either install the light bar above or below. If you purchase the dual 40-inch kit, you're going to get 4 brackets total. 2 on the right and 2 on the left. So when installing the bottom 40-inch light bar, notice that we're actually inversing where the bolt attaches to the bracket. So for the top one, the bolt was facing down, so think of it as it's going towards the Ford sign. And then if we're installing the bottom light bar, it's going to be pointing up on the bracket. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slide this light bar underneath. I usually like to go in diagonal because it's not going to fit if you just put it straight down. I'm going to install the M&R bracket, thread that bolt through the bolt hole, and secure that bolt with a nut. Okay, let's do the same thing on the opposite end. I'm going to go ahead and slide the M&R bracket onto this threaded bolt, and now I'm going to secure the light bar with this nut. Now we can go ahead and tighten these nuts. So just a quick summary, both brackets are identical and they're both pointing up. The only difference when installing the light bar is if you're installing the light bar above the Ford side, then the bolt from the side piece is actually going down towards the center of the grill. And if you're installing the light bar on the bottom of the Ford side, then that bolt is going to go up. So now that we've secured the two light bars, we're going to go ahead and sandwich and reassemble the grill back together. And then these side bolts are actually going to press the two light bars brackets. There it goes. So I'm going to put some of these nuts on here that we've taken out in the assembly stage of this install. Make sure to get all the electronic pieces, clips, as well as a 8mm bolt down the center. One thing I do want to show you guys is that after installing two of the light bars inside the grill, the active shutters are still not being interfered with anything. I'm going to actually simulate them opening and closing, and that way you can see there's no binding. So this is how it closes, and when you open it, and they do not interfere with the light bars, you still have kind of like half of a finger length in between at fully open. So closed, open. So let's go ahead and get this grill back in the truck, and we're going to wire this thing up. So now that we got everything assembled, let's take a look how it looks. Grill looks amazing. So we have a 40-inch below the Ford side, a 40-inch Pro Series above. Let's go ahead and put it back on the truck and wire them up to factory auxiliary switches. So as far as the wiring, I had it routed on the side, so that way it comes out, and it's going to be on the passenger side because all the auxiliary switches, the hookups are next to the battery. Alright, so let's talk about the wiring. So each light bar comes with 3 wires. It has a red wire, which is the main function of the light, which is powerful white light. It has the black wire, which is the ground, and it also has a white wire, which is the amber DRL, daytime running light. Because we're using 2 light bars, I'm going to actually have dedicated 2 switches, one for every white function, and then we're going to put the 2 DRLs, we're going to fuse them on one of the switch. So a total of 3 switches are going to be used. One for white, second one for white, and the third one is going to be for the back blow feature. If you're just having 1 light bar, then you're just going to use 2 switches. One for the white light, one for the amber DRL. Your Raptor has a total of 6 auxiliary switches, but switch number 1 is used to turn on the factory off-road fog light kits. So we only have switch number 2 to 6 to work with. There is 2 bundles of wires here on the side, and they're all color-coded. One bundle is wrapped in white tape, and one bundle is wrapped with red. The one we're going to want to use are the ones with a red tape on them. So those are going to be the live, connected, controlled by the switches. So let me go over the color code. So aux 1, that's going to be taken by the factory fog light kit, so you're not going to be able to connect to aux 1. Auxiliary 2, that's going to be the green wire with the brown stripe. Auxiliary 3, that's going to be the yellow wire. Auxiliary 4 is the brown wire. Auxiliary 5 is blue with orange stripe. And auxiliary 6 is going to be yellow with orange stripe. And also what you want to note is that every wire has a different amp rating. So you want to make sure to put the accessories that take up more amps, probably on 2 and 3, maybe 4. And the weaker ones, like the DRL function, you want to put them on a 5 amp fuse. So that's going to be 5 and 6. If I'm installing 1 light bar, all I have to do is find 2 power sources. So I would probably do the red wire connected to auxiliary switch number 2 because it's a 15 amp fuse, which is a green wire with a brown tracer. But the amber DRL, which is the white wire, it barely takes any amperage because it's just backlighting, we can throw it on a 5 amp fuse. So we can either go aux 5 or 6, and then the black wire goes to ground. But in this case, I'm gonna go ahead and do 2 light bars, and they're gonna share the same switch for backlighting. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have 2 different switches for the powerful lights, which I'm gonna have switch number 2 and 3 control the white functions of the light, and then switch number 6 is gonna turn on both of the DRLs. So I'm gonna actually fuse them together. I'm gonna fuse the 2 blacks, which is the grounds. I'm going to fuse the 2 whites, which is the 2 DRL functions, and we're gonna have separate reds. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the eyelid on both of the grounds. We're gonna crimp it. And we can use this grounding bolt here on the chassis. Okay, so that takes care of the ground. So now I'm doing the 2 white wires, which is the two DRLs. We're gonna connect them to one switch, which is gonna be auxiliary number 6, and that's gonna be yellow wire with an orange tracer. And then the 2 red wires, we're gonna split them up onto 2 switches. So the first one, we're gonna use a green wire with a brown tracer, and then the second one, we're gonna use a solid yellow. So green wire with a brown tracer, the solid yellow. All right, so let's go ahead and test them. Switch number 2 and 3 are going to be the 2 white light bars. So that's going to be 1 light bar and another one. And then if we turn them off and turn on switch number 6, that's going to turn on the amber DRL. Wow, these things are beautiful. Nicely discreet inside the grill, offer plenty of light, and look amazing. Thank you guys for watching. Please tune in for our night output videos of these light bars. And I know you guys are going to love the product.